I've had migraines for probably as long as I can remember. They weren't like to the degree where they affected my life, like when I was a teenager. They just were something that I could take care of because it was once a month or something like that. But, as my life went on and I got a little bit older, I started having more and more migraines. It was starting to become more of an issue. Started having more like neurological type issues like vertigo, I guess just vertigo and migraines. And then, kind of just like aches and pains in my neck all the time and my shoulders. So, I went the conventional route first, and I went and got, tested at the doctor, and I was always just virtually healthy. My brain scans always came out decent. There was just nothing that they could find. And so I was kind of, back on my own again. And that's when, I got on Google and I just started reading about other people that had migraines, and I started addressing it, diet. I started going on a bunch of different diets, and I would see a little bit of a change, but it was never enough that I was like, wow, that was it. That was my trigger. Everybody in my family could always identify what made them sick, but I was just constantly triggered, could never just differentiate what was starting my migraines. So I did the diets for a while, and that didn't work. Started to get a lot worse after I had kids. Started to get pretty hopeless after I had my daughter, because it felt like I was just constantly in a migraine cycle. I was, irritated all the time, depressed, and I just figured things are just going to keep getting worse. It all kind of came to a head, I think it was a year ago. It was a little more of a year ago. It was around Thanksgiving. My neck just all of a sudden seized up. There was no reason for it. I lost a bunch of weight. I was just so sick. And that's when I heavily just started just obsessively researching what I could do. And I got connected with some migraine doctors out in California. It was Santa Barbara. And I talked to Dr. Harcourt on the phone because I was just desperate. I was going to talk to anybody. And since I had already addressed a lot of the things that you're supposed to address with migraines, he thought that I needed to be looked at neurologically. And so he gave me Dr. Keiser's name, and I looked him up and decided to email, and I got an email right away. And it was outlining the cost and everything. And throughout this entire migraine journey, it's been expensive. I've had to take, a lot of this has been out of our own hands, out of our own pocket, a lot of no insurance and stuff like that. So it was scary, but it was also not the most expensive thing that I've done. And just, I don't know, I had a good feeling about it. And my husband was just so upset with how badly I was suffering. He just let's do it, whatever it takes. And so we decided to do it, and that just made me really hopeful. But I did tell my husband, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna crash, because this is such a big leap to take. And glad we did it, because when I went, it was just so nice to finally get individualized care. When you're looking online and stuff like that, it's broad. You're just looking at what other people are doing for their protocols, and you see one thing work for one person, and, you would try it and it, wouldn't work. So it's just, migraines can be caused by so many different things, and it's so important to find out what's making you sick. And so it was so nice to finally have someone really look at me and find some things that maybe were stressing me out. And so it just felt like I found the missing piece of the puzzle that I couldn't fix myself. And so that week I was extremely excited, hopeful, but tired. I did have migraines that week, so I was a little bit discouraged, But, you know, with migraines, I mean, obviously you're not going to have a huge, like, overnight, this is, you know, fixed. So I did, you know, I just stayed diligent, and, you know, even after I went home, was a little sick, but slowly the migraines, they were there, but they were getting better, more manageable. The vertigo, I had that maybe a few more times, but that was getting better and more manageable. And now, I guess, fast forward to, I don't know, I guess it felt like to me, I had gotten over a major roadblock. From there on, it kind of felt like I was, you know, not great, but I was healing. You know, things were getting better. And it felt like I was immediately pulled out of like a fight or flight, you know, like where I was just constantly working against something, and I was always kind of like stressed out in my brain. I felt like for the first time I was relaxing and everything was just kind of calming down. So I just think that was such a big part in me being able to heal, because all the other things I was doing, you know, it wouldn't have mattered if I wouldn't have addressed the neurological end of it. And so, yeah, now life is a lot different. I feel like an entirely different person. You know, I used to not be able to really close shop for myself. It was just weird. I was scattered all the time, you know, and now I can get focused on something or think about things and, you know, take care of myself better. And, you know, when I came to you first, I was afraid of every food that I put into my mouth. I had a really bad kind of eating disorder because I just figured everything I was eating was hurting me. And I was only 89 pounds when I came to see you. And after I came to see you, I've put on like 30 pounds and kept it. Like, I'm a solid 120. Yeah, I don't move from there. And I used to be just chronically fighting being underweight. So, yeah. It's a lot better now. Difference. You know, I don't think my kids noticed how sick I was because I was, you know, they're too little, but they were hovered around me when I was throwing up into the toilet too many times, and that doesn't happen anymore. They don't, you know, I had to have my mom come rescue me, my neighbors rescue me when I'd been really sick, and that's a rare thing now. We do a lot more. Right after I saw you, I just started taking them everywhere by myself. You know, I used to not have the confidence or the energy to do anything. So, I mean, it's just, you know, my husband, he just says it's nice to have me back because this is kind of the way that I used to be before everything tanked. So he's just happy. You know, we always talk about it like it was kind of the catalyst for my healing. It was just everything.
So
yeah, just like before, I was on the verge of overwhelm all the time, and it felt awful. Like the verge of completely just breaking down all the time over just the tiniest things. And so I wouldn't have been able to even move if I hadn't have seen you, because like there's no way I could have done the open houses and moving around with kids and all that stuff. I mean, it was just, I'm living a completely different life than I was a year ago. I was completely almost disabled. It's great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if people understand, like I thought I was on my way out. Like I literally I didn't think there was any way that I could ever improve my situation, and like to do it without medications and stuff like that is amazing. You know, it's possible. That's it.